Welcome back. We are on the first recipe of round 2 of Flour Love. So it's July here in Boston and it's pretty hot and steamy and strawberries are everywhere. So I wanted a recipe that hopefully you have strawberries where you are, where they're beautifully ripe and sweet, and I wanted to find a recipe where we could showcase the strawberries. So today we're going to be making balsamic strawberry shortcakes. You're going to learn how to make a really flaky, buttery vanilla biscuit, and then we're going to macerate some strawberries with a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and I can't wait to show you what that tastes like. And then we're going to put the whole thing together with some whipped cream. Some of you have said that you don't have a mixer at home, so I've picked a couple recipes throughout this Flour Love series that don't require a mixer, and this is one of them. Now if you have a mixer, absolutely feel free to use it. You're going to use the paddle attachment of your stand mixer. But if you don't have a mixer, you can make this with just your hands. Flour, some baking powder, salt, sugar. Mix it all together and distribute all the dry ingredients. This is cold, unsalted butter that's cut up into small chunks. If you have a stand mixer, you can just add the butter and turn your mixer on low. If you have a pastry cutter, you can use it, but if you don't have a pastry cutter, you can use a fork or you can use a butter knife. So if you're going to use a knife, you literally just cut the butter into the flour just like this. You're basically trying to replicate the action of a paddle, except that you're using one knife. You can use a fork, kind of same idea, but the fork is going to act as a couple of knives, and you're just going to use that to cut up the butter into smaller pieces. Now it's really important that this butter is really cold, so it does make it harder to mix in, but what you want to do is make sure that you have some of the butter mixed into the flour, and then you want some of the butter in little chunks. And the little chunks are what make this recipe really flaky. The way to make something flaky is to have pockets of butter in your dough, or in this instance, biscuit, or if you're making a scone, and you want pockets of butter that when they go into the oven, they will melt, and then the water that's in the butter turns to steam, and that causes your pastry or your pie dough to rise. So when you get all the pieces kind of to the right size, I like to switch by hand to try to get some of this butter mixed in. And so you can see with my fingers, I'm smearing the butter into the flour. So a lot of pastry is really, it's all about patience, and it's all about kind of touch and knowing when things are at the right temperature. So right now I'm feeling little bits of cold butter, which is awesome. And I'm also feeling a little bit of the butter start to like warm up a little bit and smush into the flour, which is also awesome. It's the butter that coats the flour that allows your biscuit to be really tender. So we got a lot of things going on. We want a tender biscuit, we want a flaky biscuit, so you gotta be really attentive to make sure that your dry mixture has both chunks of butter and flour coated with butter. So come take a look. This is beautiful and perfect for the biscuit. You can see that the flour now has bits of butter in it, and then there's these butter chunks, which is exactly what we want. We're gonna add our wet ingredients. 2 eggs. Go ahead and whisk 2 eggs. This is a whisk that we use at the bakery to make hot chocolate. Some cold, heavy cream. I'm just gonna add the whole thing all at once, and then using either a wooden spoon or a rubber spatula, just go ahead and mix the dry into the wet. So I'm just gonna pick up the dough and kind of turn it over itself. I'm really trying to keep all those butter chunks as much as possible while I'm combining the dough together. Turn it over and press it, and then fold it a little bit on top of itself and press it. So I'm not mushing it together. Preserve all of these butter lumps. Folding it in half a little bit until all of the dry is fully mixed in. A stand mixer at this point, you're gonna dump it out. You've got a little bit of extra flour that I'm just gonna mix in. So I'm gonna press it down. I mean, this is gonna help make it really flaky. Fold it in half and press it down. Now at this point, we're ready to roll out our biscuits. So I have a little bit of extra flour. I'm just gonna put it on the surface. It's gonna help me out a little bit. And I'm just gonna press this with my hands into a circle, about 8 or so inches. You want this about 1 inch thick and about circle-ish. And then I have a 3-inch round cutter. Depending on how big you want these, you can use a smaller cutter, a bigger cutter. You can even cut them into squares if you prefer like a square shortcake. But we're gonna use this round cutter. And then take the scraps, press them together. Try not to knead the dough. If you knead the dough, it's gonna get a little tough. And what I'm trying to do, again, is to keep all of those butter chunks within the dough so that it makes your biscuit really flaky. So I just kind of pressed it together, and I'm gonna get one more. I think we're probably gonna get 7. Maybe we didn't get quite 8. We're gonna get 7. A baking sheet, just like so. And let's see, now oh, here it is. Okay, now we're going to top them with a little bit of an egg wash, and then brush them with a little bit of egg wash and top it with a little bit of sugar and bake them. Just gonna brush the top of all these biscuits with the egg wash. This is gonna make the tops of your shortcake nice and shiny, and it's also gonna help the sugar adhere to it. We're gonna sprinkle these with a little bit of sugar, and that's gonna give it a really nice little crunch when you're eating your shortcakes. And then take about 1 tablespoon of just regular granulated sugar and sprinkle it generously on the top of the biscuits. So about 1 tablespoon should be enough for 6 to 8 biscuits. These are gonna go into a 350-degree oven until they are poofy and golden brown, probably about 30 or 40 minutes. So we'll check back on these in about 30 or 40 minutes. So it's been about 35 minutes, and I just took a peek, and these babies look as perfect can be. Look at those flaky layers. Can you see how all of that amazing butter like poofed up? Some of the scrap ones, you can tell they're a little bit flatter, but still so beautiful. So I want to make sure that they're totally cool before you add the strawberries and the whipped cream. Now you're going to take your strawberries and cut off the tops, and then with a paring knife, just cut them into quarters. If you have a really small strawberry, you can just make this guy, this little baby, cut it in half, and you need about 2 pints of strawberries. To add some sugar, and here's the balsamic vinegar and some lemon zest. Spoon. You're just going to mix everything together and get the sugar and the lemon and the balsamic vinegar to coat everything evenly. And then we're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes as well. This is going to macerate. Macerating is when the sugar brings out the sugars in the fruit or whatever it is you're macerating. And so that's going to help create this like really beautiful, luscious sauce. And whip the cream that goes in this shortcake as well. So we've got some cold heavy cream. If you have a stand mixer or an electric mixer, feel free to use it. Or if you want to develop some muscles, go ahead and use a whisk and whisk your cream. Whip the cream until it is soft peak stage. And so try to move the bowl and the whisk and get as much air as possible. I'm gonna add some sugar, just a little bit of sugar to sweeten it, and then also a little bit of this vanilla paste. If you are baking this at home without the kit, go ahead and add your vanilla extract or your vanilla paste. Whip away until you get nice soft peaks. So it's just been a couple seconds and we are almost ready to go. You can see how the cream is now holding a little bit of a peak. It's going to get just a little bit longer. So you don't want to whip it too much. I think that's one of the things that I see people do a lot is over whip their cream. You really want it to have this beautiful soft peak so that it's nice and creamy. We have cooled shortcakes, we have whipped cream, and we have macerated strawberries. Look at the beautiful glaze that has developed on the strawberries. You can see it's kind of a deep ruby, kind of reddish brown from the balsamic. So delicious. So to make these strawberry shortcakes, you're just gonna look at those flaky layers. I think that's so beautiful. Just take a serrated knife and go ahead and cut your shortcakes in half. I'm just gonna make 2 of them. I take 2 of the prettiest ones. You can really see that these shortcakes that were cut from that first press are so flaky. It looks fabulous. And then I'm gonna take some of the strawberries. You're gonna spoon both the strawberries and some of that syrup. This tangy syrup, sweet, with a little bit of balsamic flavors. Really, really great with this shortcake. Do that on this one, and then on this one. And then the whipped cream. Remember not to have the cream too stiff. You want it nice and soft so that it feels really soft and fluffy in your mouth. A lot of times people whip it really, really stiff. We don't want that. See how beautiful that is? I'm gonna spoon that on top. 2. And then take your top it off. Put some strawberries on the side. I am dying to try these. It just came out of the oven about half an hour ago. They're really flaky with this amazing strawberry and whipped cream. So excited. Beautiful. So good.